reality is that until we actually sit down and we agree that, okay, we don't want to be this way, there is a different way forward in the area of education, in structuring our country, in structuring our security architecture, in structuring even our banking system. How can it be that people will take vast amount of money and take it outside the country to be earning sometime maybe 5%? Nigeria itself, the CBN minimum discount rate is in double digits. How do you grow an economy in that fashion? For a long time in this country, people didn't have to have money to be able to eat, particularly in northern Nigeria. They could farm. Now, insecurity has rendered it impossible.
I think we have lost him.
We lost his audio, so but
Hello?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how long, I don't know for how long I was gone.
We're about 30 seconds, so.
Okay. So I was just pointing out that in a situation where the average person cannot even feed, and government is going on, and they are telling me the Bretton Woods Institute, headed by the likes of Okonjo-Iweala, SLS in the comfort of his palace in Kano, they are telling us about how wonderful the economy is. I can't borrow for any productive purpose in this economy. You say you are running a capitalist economy where there is no capital available to anybody. So it is what you have is a situation where there is a deliberate weaponization of poverty. It's not by accident, it's deliberate. The intention is to ensure that it is only those who keep saying Rankadede that they open the toll gates for so that they can eat. The average man on the street, they've blocked away every opportunity for advancement. The aspirational class is dead. So we've come to a point where we have to stop engaging these things as though these are accidents. They are not accidents, and they are not the consequences of incompetence. These are deliberate things done to keep the people down and ensure that the people remain poor and ignorant so that a class is persistently ahead and the remaining are underfoot. These are not by accident. It cannot be that it is beyond our capacity as a people to generate electricity. It cannot be that in 1993, when INEC probably did not own a single computer, we could have free and fair election in this country. And today, with Beavers, IREV, it is impossible to have free and fair election. It cannot be. These things are not by accident. They are results of deliberate actions, things that were designed to happen the exact way in which they have happened. This is why it is critical that we must, first of all, get to the point where we admit this to ourselves. It makes it that much easier to now fight to change it. If you cannot correctly diagnose a problem, how do you treat? If you treated malaria if you're treating typhoid with malaria drugs, you will never get rid of that typhoid. These discussions we are having is a misdiagnosis of our problem. We do not have challenges of poor governance. It is not poor governance. It's evil, wicked, deliberately wicked, exploitative, and malevolent governance system. It doesn't deliver the most to, it doesn't deliver the best to the most. It only takes care of a few. So if we are going to do anything, it will be because we first of all recognize that we are not dealing with governance challenges. These are not governance challenges. These are deliberate things. The people are deliberately made poor, kept underfoot. If it will change, we will be the ones who changed it. That's my view.
Okay, so how come, Dele, that our system seems to continually throw up what you have described as a deliberately wicked and manipulative governance or leadership. How come that system continually throws that up, or seems to be? What is wrong with the system that is what we seem to keep having?
Pastor Itua, every system is designed for a purpose. I hung around real estate people for a season of my life. And in that season, I learned the fundamentals of architecture. And I understood very clearly that behind every design is a purpose, utilitarian or whatever. But the first thing you must understand is that when you have a country that is designed by external forces, the first question is, what is the purpose of Nigeria? The totality of Nigeria's purpose at the point of its design was the benefit of the British Crown. And that purpose has never changed. It's only the method that has ever changed. When the British left, they simply left in charge those who will protect their interest. And that has been the persistent basis for the existence of Nigeria, not the interest of the victims who are trapped within its borders. So you have, unfortunately, a state without citizens. The Nigerian has never been treated as citizens, and all you need to do is go back into the Willings Commission of Inquiry. The minorities were so distraught and worried about their fate in the country that was being constructed that they demanded that special rights be enshrined in the Constitution for them. That was what brought about the Willings Commission, and that's how come you have a Bill of Rights in the Independence Constitution, because the minorities were afraid. This was so because there wasn't a composite of a Nigerian. Everybody entered the Nigerian enterprise on the back of their tribal or ethnic identity. So up until today, somebody will get up somewhere and say he's speaking on my behalf because I'm Yoruba. Somebody will get up somewhere and say he's speaking on your behalf because you are Bini, you are Edo. Somebody will stand up somewhere and say he's speaking on behalf of all Fulanis. So we've constructed a country that do not have citizens. We have all kinds of people joining the hodgepodge that we've managed to construct. You actually have more Liverpool supporters in Nigeria than Nigerians, more Arsenal supporters in Nigeria than Nigerians. You have more Man U supporters, as useless as their club has become, than Nigerians. That is the reality of the Nigerian tragedy. Nobody owns Nigeria. We don't feel like it's our home. So because we've not owned it, we've abandoned it to all kinds of crooks and criminals. And they don't exactly as Americans to do this, to influence this, or to influence that. So we are problems for us that if it's not our own country. Really, sir, and I apologize ahead for what I'm about to say. If the Nigerian people had been blessed with a church that was conscious of its responsibilities, maybe we might have had a faith-based movement that might have propelled Nigeria out of the madness. But unfortunately, the church itself is complicit in our madness. There are three legs to the Nigerian madness: weaponized religion, weaponized ignorance, weaponized poverty. Weaponized religion is the last of the three. So we are in a situation where the societal norms have collapsed. There are no institutions. The army is gone. If it was once upon a time, the country is the way it is, the army would have stepped in. But there is no army of that nature in Nigeria again. The state no longer enjoys a monopoly of violence. And the army is as compromised and as complicit as every other aspect of our country. So we are actually in a situation where unless the people themselves find common purpose, such as the one that led to the crystallization of the NSAS protest in 2020, which unfortunately was not met by readiness from those who have been advocating a change of our system, we didn't envisage it. So there was only one issue that everybody was shouting about: NSAS, 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 NSAS. They changed the name. SARS did not end because they required the SARS unit to enforce impunity. And we are still where we were as at that time. But that gave us a glimpse into what is possible if we can unite behind a common purpose that is beneficial to all. But that's the only thing that can save us. Only thing.
That's a good place to land. But what do you think the common purpose for Nigeria would be that will unite
There are too many things. There are too many things that unite us. The insecurity is not everybody's business. When Buhari was alive, Katsina was his home state. Kankara, which is one of the epicenter of Fulani banditry and lawlessness, is in Katsina state. Today in Kaduna and today in Kogi state, vast swathes of Kogi, the Yagba axis, is no longer accessible. They've been cut off by Fulani marauders. The same thing in Kwara is happening in Ekiti, is already happening in Ogun State. You can't drive Lagos about the expressway completely at peace with your conscience and you can't be at peace because you don't know what may come out of the bushes. It's happening all over Delta State. It's happening in Edo State. So the insecurity is already a common thing to all of us. But if we will stop dealing with it in terms of, oh, is the Fulani this or is this one that, it is inescapable that names will be mentioned because unfortunately, from everything that we've been told, even by those who imported them, the identities of these terrorists, their ethnic identity is unfortunately very clear. These are Fulanis, but these are not Nigerian Fulanis. These are Fulanis that were brought from outside, welcomed by persons in our own government. But if we continue to deal with it as though it's one people's problem and it's not all of our problems, it will keep exacerbating the way it is and nothing will change. That is one. The second thing, hunger. You and I can afford to sit down the way we are and speak Dogon Trenchi. We can even afford data. There are persons whose salaries will not buy a bag of rice. And then Okonjo Iweala, SLS, and the rest of them are telling me about the improvement in the economy. I sell food, raw food, and I can tell you that a lot of people cannot do any other thing after buying food. They can't even pay for their transportation. If that is all, if the money they've earned is all they will end up spending, if they're not busy with one payday loan or the other, they can't even survive until the end of the month. So we're not in a place where we can continue to fragment ourselves the way we have consistently done. And I think this is essentially a problem that you find located in what should be our middle class. These are the persons who should ordinarily galvanize public opinion. These are the persons who should give ideas as to the direction of a society. But they are fully focused on existence. There is nothing that interests any one of them these days. You talk to them, they are just focused completely on making money, paying their bills, and surviving until the next day. So there is a failure of leadership. I'm not talking about those you call leaders who are occupying our ruling class, but of the class that should be possessed of ideas.
Okay, so insecurity, hunger, is there any other thing that you think we should unite behind?
Almost everything that should make a state is gone from Nigeria. If we truly want to preserve this state called Nigeria for a future generation, we are going to have to get up and decide that we will do what we have to do. There are too many things that nobody needs to be pointing at anyone. On a daily basis, government is being designed to maximally exploit the poor and vulnerable. There is no rule of law. There is no law and order. The police kill with impunity. Soldiers kill with impunity. I was watching it. Look, Nigerians don't need to be told where the shoes are pinching them. The first thing they just need to do is stop euthanizing themselves with hatred. It's the hatred they have embraced that makes them excuse all the evils that is right on top of the bridge of their noses. That's the only reason. How do I wake a person who is pretending to be asleep? They know, they can see it. They don't need me to tell them that their situation is bad. It's just a function of them refusing to embrace the reality of their circumstances because they are too far gone in their embrace of hatred. That's all I see.
Okay, let me take you a little bit back. In 1884, the colonial powers sat together in Berlin and they totally divided this continent called Africa among themselves and created these boundaries, these false and I just say illegitimate boundaries, and divided us into countries such that today Nigeria speaks English, Republic of Benin, just down the road, largely Yoruba people speak French. Togolese are also a mixture of Yoruba and Ga people and people like that. Fante people across the road from Ghana speak French. Their cousins in Ghana speak English and look at themselves as different sets of people and different countries. And also they have assimilated over time different cultures and attitudes. Should Africa itself not go back and have an African conference and recreate its own history and redirect itself? You know, because what makes a nation in the first place, and how have we accepted? You know, truly these days you say Fulanis come from Niger. They will come from Niger because they are all one people, and these boundaries are false. So, what are your thoughts on that?
One of the tragedies of Nigeria is that we've not managed to build a nation out of the multiple ethnicities that are trapped here. I say that because sometimes you cannot wish away the realities of your situation. You first of all have to admit to the realities you are confronted with, and then work with those realities to get to the point that you are looking to get. That is the change you are seeking. The artificial borders in Africa cannot be our preoccupation when we can't even deal with the artificial borders in our country. The Imo man will say that he cannot have an archbishop coming from Anambra. The one in Anambra will say he cannot stand the idea of an Ebonyi man coming to be his bishop. The Ibadan man believes that it is his God-given right to continually provide the governor in Oyo State. The Okeogun man is blood in the same state. Another Yoruba man does not have the right to be the governor in that state. In Lagos here, some people cannot vote simply because Mama Chukwudi is from where they believe she should not have come from to come and vote in Lagos. How can we then have the moral standing to speak to the balkanization of Africa when we've not even managed to deal with the immediate problem that we have carried and ignored all these years? The tragedy is that we have failed with our little. So we can't speak to what should be paramount on the mind of every African, which is the unification of Africa itself. In the first place, the Chinese, 1.4 billion people. The Indians, 1.4 billion people. Chinese, one government. India, one government. We, 54 countries, 1.3, 1.4 billion people, but we have 54 countries. If I want to go to Seychelles, I might need to go to Dubai first before I can go there. That is the reality, 54 custom unions. That is what we have done to ourselves. If we cannot, inside Nigeria itself, you have apartheid. I remember sometime back when I spoke on Arise, maybe this was like 5, 6 years ago, and I pointed out the fact that between Lagos and Niger State, you had, I think, 34 or something checkpoints, and then from Niger State until you get to Katsina, none inside the same Nigeria. So how do we begin to speak to the lofty ambition of a greater African state when we cannot even integrate this our own small country? We can't integrate it. We've divided it hopelessly. So it's difficult. Sometimes I look at our country, I've had occasion to look at it, and I said, Nigeria hobbles me. It's almost as if you are asked to go and be swimming in a river with your hands and legs tied. Just by reason of the fact that I'm a Nigerian, I'm forced to limit my ambition and ignore my vision just because I'm a Nigerian. Is a limiting factor. So this question you have asked, Pastor Itua, I'm sorry, it is impossible to speak to the lofty goal and ambition of convening a Pan-African conference where we take a second look at the stupid borders that were deliberately drawn to divide us. It wasn't drawn without purpose. It was drawn deliberately to divide and to make sure that we are never able to unite and find common purposes. Even inside Nigeria, we can't find common purpose. Inside there are very few states in Nigeria where you find harmony within the state, even when the state is completely homogeneous. Ekiti comprises only of Ekiti people, which is a subset of the Yoruba people. What has it bettered? So I'm sorry. We have not built a country that is suggestive of a people who are able to think on a continental scale. We've been left behind. That's the honest to God truth. And it's not just a Nigerian tragedy. This one is an African tragedy.
Okay, so in that case now, the challenges, overcoming the challenges of poor governance, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on radicalizing or educating or lifting up the people? What are your thoughts on which direction we should go? What are your thoughts on how we should try to extricate ourselves or Nigeria or even Africa from where we have found ourselves? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, there is a gentleman named known as Buckminster Fuller. And Buckminster Fuller had something very interesting to say some time back. And he said something, I'll just paraphrase. He was of the opinion that you gain nothing by railing against a decadent system that you want to see changed. And he suggested that it was always better to paint the picture of the new reality you'd like to see supplanting the decadent order, and to then spend time bringing that new reality into being. I am of the opinion that we've come to a point where action is required if anything would change. That action must begin with education. That is what I've devoted my life to doing for some years now. Spend the time, educate the people, bring them to the knowledge of exactly what they're dealing with. But when we are done telling them, we must now organize them to act. Kwame Nkrumah says that revolutions are brought about by men of thought who act as men of action. We've come to that point where we need to honestly set out the parameters of the struggle for the people and then call them to action. We cannot continue to hope that people will do the right thing when they have consistently shown that they are not interested in doing the right thing. In this country, even at the peak of military dictatorship in 1993, 1994, we could organize public action, and we did. Persons protested in this town. There were seats at home. is not the one that has been violently or that was violently enforced, but there were corporate efforts at ensuring that people did sit at home, and it happened. And a military dictatorship quaked on account of people's power. But almost every one of the organizations and persons that were beyond that have been compromised today. So if one falls, others must rise. I don't believe that anything will change until we get to the point where we begin to organize direct action, demanding change, and then standing behind it, and let the heavens fall if it will. Because in the absence of such resolute decision to fight this madness, nothing will change.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on 2027? And how do you view the political landscape? And what do you think will happen in 2027?
I look at Nigeria, and frankly speaking, I don't see 2027. I don't see it. I know that a lot of people would want to hang on to the hope that 2027 might produce something better than 2023, but I don't see it. So I would prefer to focus entirely on preparing the people for now. I would prefer to see a situation where we build a civil society movement that is strong enough to engage the government with demands on behalf of the people. I'm not looking at 2027 because I don't see anything that has happened since 2023 to suggest that there will be a different outcome in 2027. Somebody like Peter Obi, for instance, he didn't lose the election in 2023. He did not. But we are where we are today because we are not in a democracy. We don't have a judicial system, and we certainly do not have free and fair elections. So nothing has happened between 2023 and today to change that. The only thing that can happen is that we should begin to organize ourselves to ensure that in 2027, our will would prevail. The idea that because they removed Mahmoud the thief, or Yakubu, or whatever, because it was removed, something would change in our electoral system. No, I said it earlier, 1990, on Frimosu, they used ledgers, rulers, and biro, but we had the election under 48 hours, and we knew what the results were. That is no longer the case today because the people have been constrained. So if anything is going to change in 2027, it will be because we started acting today to ensure that what happened in 2023 does not happen in 2027. In the absence of that, I guarantee you that Tinubu hasn't left and will never leave anything to chance, and he probably has his results already written and locked up in a safe somewhere. That's just the reality. Person will know the government with the rig. Is it now that is the president that will not rig? I'm sorry. I don't see it happening. Unless something is done before then, nothing will change.
Amazing. We're going to open the floor for questions now. And I'm going to hand over to Pastor Sonny to conduct the Q&A. So anybody who would like to ask questions can lift up their hands electronically. And or if you'd like to make a contribution. But I'll please appeal to all of us to make it short, sharp, straight to the point, so that we can take as many questions and contributions as possible. And then we can take it from there. Dele, what role are you going to play going forward in our country? What do you intend to do? And how are things with you?
In my role as the National Organizing Secretary of Afenifere, it is my mission to reorganize the Action Group, which is the political party that was known in Western Nigeria as Afenifere, If I am able to complete the process of setting up the website to allow us open our member register so that we can begin to take members from across the country, and then we begin the process of properly educating them as to their rights and as to what is possible. That is my major preoccupation. I, frankly speaking, cannot find the enthusiasm to start preparing for an election in 2027. When we have properly organized ourselves as a political movement, we can then begin to deal with the issues of finding common purpose with other like-minded persons to begin to demand certain changes, which may be able to help ensure that something sensible happens in 2027, because I know that in the absence of concerted effort to make sure that something changes, nothing will change. It will remain exactly as it is. So that's where I am.
You think you are planning to revive the action group?
Oh, yes, I am. I most definitely am. I'm already doing that. I'm working quietly with people across the length and breadth of Nigeria, quietly re-energizing old alliances and finding new friends in the Middle Belt, in Ala Igbo. I'm moving across quietly. Before the end of the year, we would have a whole lot of clarity and visibility. But as of today, my principal goal and task is to revive the action group, put together a center-left political platform that fights and champions the cause of the downtrodden, looking for common purpose with like minds across the length and breadth of Nigeria. That's what I'm doing.
Okay, what about this ADC matter? Do you have any involvement there, or you don't believe in it?
If we had spoken around that time, perhaps you would have known. I never had any love for any coalition of politicians, and I made it abundantly clear, even in private discussions with His Excellency Peter Obi. I am of the opinion that any alliance that must be had should be had with the Nigerian people, not with this coterie of criminals and crooks who are part and parcel of the same APC nonsense. Is it Baba Afusa in Osun State who couldn't pay my father's pension that I'm supposed to be aligning with? Or is it the midget of Kaduna who made the life of Christians in Kaduna a live hell? So I should forget all of their evil simply because I want to see Tinubu removed. Removing Tinubu is the least of our worries. There are worse creatures queuing up behind him. It's a system that we need to be focused on. So I'm not interested in all those ADC shenanigans. I never was, and I made it abundantly clear. I wasn't for it. So I'm very happy to see that it's looking like he's dead these days, and I'm loving it. I'm not for it. Sorry.
Well, do you think it's possible, let's be realistic, to have a completely fresh set of political players or actors in Nigeria that will totally eliminate some of these people that you have mentioned just now? Although
let me say this. The biggest problem we have in Nigeria is a lack of ambition. Even our political operators, they are lacking in ambition. They don't have big ideas. These people have no record to run on. There is nothing to run with. All they have are their names. And when you take away the names and you begin to deconstruct their public records, none of them are political assets. The problem is that our political, even the well-meaning ones, have a tendency to be very lazy in looking to go over the people's head to gatekeepers. I can say, for instance, I was close to the Peter in 2023, and I can say it unequivocally. He won the election. Did he make enough as per the Constitution? No, he did not, but he won. But brazenly, Mahmoud did what he did. So if we're talking about can a candidate win without the kind of coalition that the ADC represented, the fact is that yes, Peter won. He won. So that proves that this is possible. What is different? What should be different this time is that we should have moved beyond the slogans and then given the people substantive basis to be willing to stand behind their votes. If the people had been willing to stand behind their votes in 2023, we wouldn't be where we are today. The people voted, but they did not have skin in the game to the point where they were willing to stand on the street and do whatever was necessary to ensure the sanctity of their votes. That is because they were not connected to the change. They couldn't see what would change in education, what would change in healthcare, what would change with security. They were not painted pictures of a better tomorrow for which they were willing to die. If anybody is going to change anything, it will be because he connected the people to the issue to the point where the people desired the change so much that they will not be denied by those who will steal elections. It is because they can't even sometimes see the difference between the persons they are voting for and the persons they are looking to remove. So what's their own? They'll just look at, well, I voted, what more can I do? Go and resolve it as if the resolution is not in their hand. So it is for the political operators to get to the point where they connect the people to these issues and then get the people invested in the change that they are selling. Nigerians are not as stupid as they are sometimes presumed to be. The problem is that they are disconnected from the issue. If I must die for change, at least do me the favor of letting me understand what the change means. People who voted for Buhari in 2015, they felt they were voting for change. The only thing they didn't pause to ask was what kind of change they were going to get. So if we want anything to change, those who desire change must become as evangelists.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Sonny now and question and answer. And I'll just say, how much time do you think this process of action group rebirth or reformation?
It will definitely happen before the end of the year.
Okay, all right, we'll watch your space. Thank you so much, my brother. God bless you. And God
Amen. Thank you, sir.
All right, Sonny, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Pastor Itwa, and good evening again, Prophet Dele Farotimi. At this rate, we have to call you a prophet because many of the things you say actually very germane and very true. I have questions of my own, but there are so many hands up, and that's not surprising. The topic is a very engaging and interesting one. And so what we want to do is give as many people, if possible, everybody an opportunity to either ask a question or make a comment. So I would like to appeal before I start to call that please try as much as possible to go either straight to your question or just make your comment, and so that all the other people can have an opportunity to say something. We are at 6 o'clock and we just have barely 30 minutes. So please, I appeal. I won't take much time. Ask your questions straight away or just make your comment, not more than a minute. And there will be a timer up on your phone. If you watch the right top hand side of your phone, we are counting down from when you start. 60 seconds, not more than 90 seconds, okay? So I start with, is it Henry? Henry Kantebe. Please, Henry, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question or make your comment. Then we go to Oluyinka and Funke Awolowo. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Pastor Sonny. Welcome to our forum, Barrister Farotimi. And I'm so much happy speaking to you today because we only see you on TV. I'm actually talking from Toronto, Ontario. And what I think we should focus on is all these, interests in the opposition. Can we not just come together and collapse all our ideas and have a formidable team? Because, we cannot say we don't care about 2027, and it's obviously going to mean that we are prolonging the suffering of the people. So, like my son would say, it's difficult for a society that is so balkanized to make progress. Just like you said, it's very, very difficult. So can we just collapse all these interests, all these ideas, all this ideology? I can see that you are coming from the central left. Some of us are conservatives. Let's come together and form a formidable idea and ideology. And I also wish that you extend your stay, because we had a after party the last time with the guest speaker, so that we can continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for keeping it to exactly the time. You just overshot by a few seconds. I call on Oluyinka. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry to add DF, everyone. I choose to look at this from the perspective of the continent. I met a South African old man recently, and he called me all sorts of names as a Nigerian. I said we were holding Africa back. And I'm looking at Mali, I'm looking at Burkina Faso. Is there a possibility that that has any direct impact on what is happening in Africa or Nigeria? Is it an option? Can that be a platform by which we can start to chart a new narrative for Africa? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for keeping it to 30 seconds. Pastor Funke Aolo.
Good evening, Barrister Farotimi. Thank you very much for that, giving us that alternative of action group. I want to say something, because I went to school briefly in England, and I saw that they had IRA and they had a Scottish part, and they were all at loggerheads. But that did not stop progress. It did not stop governance. And even though, yes, it was terrible at a point, even if you were in Oxford Street, you wouldn't know when the bomb will be, detonated and all that. But they still had governance. So can we really say, the divisions of what the British did was so bad that we cannot govern ourselves? That's a question. Then secondly, I saw that I was very much a part of the Labour Party. And after we won, I saw that Baba Adebanjo was very angry that we did not fight back. And one thing I observed is that, were we really ready? Because you see, we need to go back to the history, and thank God you are calling back on Action Group, because the divisions are there. Anyone that wins this election and wants to do the right governance has to be ready to restructure, to really do things. And is that really on the table? Because I'm seeing the political, like you said, there's a lot of laziness, and these things, would they really be tackled with this present state? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll take this first three. Is that okay, Dele?
Yeah, would you be kind enough as to reiterate that second question, because it wasn't too clear. There was some break. The second question, I didn't hear it too clearly.
Right. I said
no, not Mrs. Not Auntie Funke. Is
all right.
I think
Oluyinka.
DF.
Oluyinka was the one who asked the second question, and it wasn't particularly clear. He was talking about the South African gentleman who said we are holding back, and then I lost him.
Yeah, so I was saying that it's apparent that the rest of Africa, especially South Africa, looks to Nigeria to emancipate Africa. I had an experience. I almost wept. I told the man to stop talking, and he said he just wanted to aggravate me. And I said, there's something happening in Burkina Faso and possibly Mali, where they've decided to exit ECOWAS and they started to chart their own course. I said, would that have any direct impact on Nigeria? Is that something to look forward to help solve internal and continental problems towards having a new identity? Thank you, sir.
Did you get that?
All right. So I don't know about a allusion in
Okay,
yeah, I
we
got
can.
you. I was actually going to answer the question.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead.
so the first question was the one that I asked about the ability of the opposition to come together and all of that, an allusion to my refusal to work with certain persons. Let me be clear about something. I think it's the Bible that spoke as to the fact that two cannot work together unless they be in agreement. I don't believe in alliances for the sake of alliances. We must have common purpose. There must be something that we want to do together that would make me to come into an alliance with you. If we do not have common purpose, then there can be no basis for an alliance. I am looking at persons I desire to see in jail, persons I believe have ruined Nigeria and are deserving of the nose. And then for political expediency, I will now claim that I have found an alliance with such a person. It is impossible. So it is not for want of ideological flexibility. I am willing to work. Okay, let me take for example the Peter Obi presidential project in 2023. Peter Obi is a market economist as far as the economy is concerned. I am all for regulated systems because I come from a poor background, and if I hadn't been born into a system designed to protect the poor, I would never have risen to where I am today. The steps that the likes of me could take, the educational system that could deliver value to the children of civil servants, such as my own father, is no longer available to anybody. They've taken away the ladder. So for someone like me, I am not enthused about the idea of walking across ideological boundaries, but when expediency demanded it in 2023, we did it. But we are not now going to close our eyes to the fact that there are persons who are actually criminal in nature who are looking to align because they do not like the person in power, who I don't like either, but I can't my enemy's enemy is not my friend. That is why I can't align. That is one, so that I don't waste time there. The second one is the question that Oluyinka has asked. Look, once upon a time, I used to travel a lot on the west coast of Africa, Ghana, Togo, Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, Gambia. I used to go around. I enjoyed traveling. And then it got to a point about 15 years ago. He started looking at me funny once I brought out my Nigerian passport. It became a thing of shame because each one, there was this accusatory look, almost like spendthrift, never do well. All you know how to do is enjoy life, spend money, be gallivanting all over the place. You've delivered no value for the race. So I know how you feel, Yinka, but the reality is that democracy will not change Africa. Democracy is designed to please the West, make us think that things are changing and will get better. It is not by accident that Burkina Faso
Pastor Son, is he frozen?
Yeah, I think so. It looks as if he's frozen.
Okay.
We can't hear you anymore.
It's gone mute.
Yes. He's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Okay.
Okay, we've lost him completely.
We've lost him for now. I'm sure
Off the
he'll be back.
platform.
No truer words have been spoken. I think the Nigerian, he made very, very germane point at the beginning of this conversation that what we are dealing with is a systemic failure, and we must be looking at fixing the system. When it suits those in government, they talk about the Constitution, but the ground law of the Constitution is that you are able to protect lives and property of the people, and that's obviously not what's happening in Nigeria today. And we're still talking about mundane issues of governance in this country. So I can see there are a lot of hands up. If there's anybody that wants to make a comment and not necessarily a question, maybe we can take that, and so if there's anyone that wants to make a comment, not necessarily a question for Dele Farotimi.
He's back in. We just admitted him back in.
Okay, great. Okay, Jumoke, just take over and take on from here, and you'll be able to moderate the Q&A sessions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Faye, have you made Mr. Dele co-host? He's back in. Please make him co-host so that he can unmute his phone and also show his video. Okay. So he's co-host. Bear with us while we wait for him to, for Mr.
They finally allowed me back.
Okay. Apologies for that. So you can turn on your video now and also your, yeah, you can turn on your video. Thank you. So I'm taking over the rest of the question and answers from Pastor Sonny. So we have quite a few hands up and we're just going to go in the same order.
Can I round up the questions
Yes.
that was answering before? Okay,
yes, sir.
So I'll just say that in relation to Yinka's question, the truth really is that I hate to be the one to break it to us, but if we are looking to walk the same path as Burkina Faso and Mali, then we should be hoping and praying that certain people who have not gotten it right for some time should start getting it right. But we don't have the army that Burkina Faso has, and unfortunately, we lack the army that the Malians have. That is our situation. Now, to deal with the question that Funke had in relation to why we appear incapable of governing ourselves, our situation is not analogous with that of the Irish or the Scots. They are ethnic nationalities, just like we have multiple ethnic nationalities here as well. But unfortunately for us, we have had to deal with the accident of one, cultural genocide. It is not by accident that the Nigerian is hopelessly divided by religion. That is not something the Scot and the English can argue about Episcopal, they can argue about Catholic or Anglican. Our own disagreements are even deeper. Our problems are structured into our situation. So until such a time as when we are deliberate about decolonizing our minds, it is actually very difficult for us to deal with the realities of our situation. We have to be deliberate about saying we must decolonize our mind and stop seeing ourselves as being different from each other. I cannot for the life of me understand how somebody would happily live in a white man's country, speak to the evil of racism, and then come to Nigeria and be talking about Yoruba, Igbo, Fulani, Hausa as though we are from different planets. So that mind decolonization is very, very important. So that's the three questions that have been asked already.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
My apologies, I was muted. I apologize, you have to leave in about 15 minutes. So how many more hands can you take?
No, let's take as many as we can up until the point when we have.
Okay. So I'm going to call
I would also try my best.
Go ahead, sir.
I was saying I'll try my best to keep my answers short so that we can take as many as we can.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Mr. Namdi to please go ahead, unmute and ask your question, and then Auntie Bola Adetula, and then Mr. Emmanuel. So please keep it to 1 minute or less. Thank you. Namdi, please go ahead with your question. Namdi, please unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, it just allowed me to
Okay.
to ask a question. Greetings to everybody, and particularly to Dele. And Dele, I hope you remember me. We spoke once, and I proffered the idea, and this is more of a comment than a question. One of the areas where I agree with Dele is that Nigeria's solution is no longer political. What we need is a technocratic revolution. And what I mean by that is that we have to accept that the existing ruling class has failed, and we have to flush them out. The only way we can flush them out is by the people imposing accountability and transparency on them, which means that we have to be able to punish the people in power outside the ambits of the law. Not in terms of physical harm or anything like that, but going after them socially, financially, and logistically. Because unless there's accountability, nothing is going to change. And then once we have that accountability to flush out the existing system, then there has to be an assumption and control of governance of the government, and then a proposition for a new restructuring of Nigeria. So beyond just talking, I've actually created an organization called the Civilian Accountability and Transparency Task Force, which is creating the tools for us to be able to go after these actors in the system who seem to have no accountability. So that's what I wanted to share. So anybody that's interested in that, I've left my email in this chat to connect after this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can I have Mrs. Adetula, please? Go ahead, man, or mute.
You. Yes, I have. Thank you, Prophet Dele. My own is number one. It cannot just all be doom. Can you just give us your recommended implementation action that we can embark upon? That's number one. Number two, you spoke earlier on about Fulani people all over Nigeria, and you mentioned state. Yes. And my investigation, I discovered that both Kwara and Kogi, most of these places, they are actually taking over all the mineral resources of those areas. Lately, Kogi and Kwara, they discovered tourmaline, precious stones. There are very many there, and some other precious stones. That is one of the reasons. Then number three, how do we disabuse the mind of a typical Nigerian who thinks he or she is smart? They want to cut corners. Thank you.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Apparently, my network came back on again, so I can hear you, but I can't start my video.
Okay.
Faye, can you make him co-host? Can you please make Dele co-host again, Mr. Farotimi co-host?
Whilst we are busy talking about the challenges of government, apparently we still have challenges of network.
Okay, you should be able to turn on your video now, Mr. Farotimi.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yes, it's on now.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Emmanuel Asapokai. I'm calling in from the Constitutional State of Connecticut. I want to say thank you so much to Pastor Itwai Godalo for making this possible, for being the convener of this highly productive platform. I want to also thank Sister Jumoke for always being a fantastic facilitator of the sessions. And I'd like to thank Barrister Dele Farotimi for your uncommon courage and for always being able and willing to confront not just the issues, but the key players in the Nigerian project. My question to you will be, if you had a chance to be president of Nigeria for one day, can you provide us a 7-point action plan, the things you must do? Doesn't matter whether you can finish or
one day.
If you have a chance to be president for 24 hours, can you give us a 7-action plan? Things you can do, right? Or you have limited resources meant to work with and reach and means. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you want to take those 3?
I've actually heard only one. The other 2, I was completely off. I had to struggle to reconnect.
Okay. Mrs. Adetula's question was very similar. She talked about the bandits taking over areas that have mineral resources, and maybe I'll ask her to just ask her question again so that I'm not missing what she said. Mrs. Adetula, please, can you ask your question again? And also, Mr. I believe it was Mr. Emmanuel just spoke. It was
Mr. Emmanuel was the one who just asked. There was somebody before him.
I think
it was the one.
Chuku, let me look for him. Auntie Bola, please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I asked. I said, Prophet Dele, can you give us your recommended implementation actions that are implementable actions that we here can begin to act upon? That's number 1.
Okay.
And then I spoke that you mentioned areas where Fulani, and I have investigated certain states. Lately, Kogi and Kwara, they have a lot of mineral resources, especially tourmaline, and other precious stones. So these people are actually working in coalition with some other people to mine all this illegally. Let us call a spade a spade. The number 3, I said, how do we reorientate Nigerians who think they are smart? Everybody now wants to cut corners. I don't want to start giving examples, my own experience.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Namdi was the other person that I believe you missed. Mr. Namdi, can you please summarize your question in about 30 seconds? Would appreciate that. Thank you.
No, I wanted to greet Dele. We've spoken once before, Dele, and it's good to catch you on this forum again. And I agree with you. Yes, hopefully you remember me. But I wanted to agree with you that Nigeria's solution is no longer political, that what we're in need of is actually what I call a technocratic revolution. And there's a 3-step process to that. Number 1 is we have to flush out the existing system. The way we do it is that we have to punish the bad actors beyond the ambits of the law, which means we, the people, go after them socially, financially, and logistically. We actually have the technology and the wherewithal to be able to do that. What that will do is it will flush out the system.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Someone interrupted. So apologies.
All right, so here is the thing. Emmanuel, if I was president of Nigeria, the very first thing I would do is to submit myself to the rule of law. We have more than enough laws on our books. What we have never had is the political will for those who rule to submit themselves to be governed by the law. The law never grants a power it does not limit or constrain. When it grants the power to do one thing, it prescribes how the power should be exercised, but it also prescribes how it should be constrained. So the wielder of power never have absolute power. That's the first thing. Second thing, I'll restructure Nigeria. I'll take it back to the regions that we used to have. The last time Nigerians sat in a conclave as a collective to agree how they wish to be ruled, I'm on the phone. I'm in a program. Okay, no problem. You can become. The last time Nigerians sat as a collective to agree how they should be ruled, it was in 1963. And in sitting down, they agreed and created another region out of the original 3. They took another region out of the Western region, creating the Midwest region. I will take us back to the regional system and have a total of 6 regions, aligning with the current geopolitical zones as recognized by us all. It is in tandem with what had begun in 1960, when they had already said that they will create one out of the existing 3 regions. The next thing I will do is to change our security architecture. All these things and many more can only be done when you have already ensured that there are a set of rules for which infraction there are consequences. I don't want to spend too much time. I don't want to be making things up on the hoof, but I believe that if you align Nigeria to the rule of law, restructure it to make it efficient in its administration, you would have dealt with the bulk of our problems. Corruption is not peculiar to Nigeria. What is peculiar to Nigeria is impunity. Impunity is peculiar because we are not submitted to the rule of law. Submit us to the rule of law, the remaining will cascade the moment you do other things. When it comes to the actions that I would recommend, one of the first things I'll tell all of us is that we must first of all renew our minds, decolonize our minds to the point where we understand that religion are essentially tools of control. So whether it's Christianity or Islam, they serve purposes. If they do not serve the purpose of national integration, they should be jettisoned. We have multiple bases for coming together. Beyond the fact that we're already lumped together, it's more efficient for us to be together. So as a priority, I'll be looking to do everything to strengthen our unity. Now, illegal mining and banditry work hand in hand, but we would be inadvertently closing our eyes to something very critical when we talk about illegal mining and banditry. The government is complicit. It is not by accident that these things are happening. I spoke with a client a couple of years ago. This person had a mining concession, and she was telling me how she abandoned the mining concession because she was told that she had to pay bandits so that those ones might help to evict the people living on the land constituting a mining concession. And she made me understand at the time that this is common in the mining industry. What you are seeing across the length and breadth of Nigeria masquerading as banditry is actually government agents, private individuals in cahoots with criminal elements simply for the sake of money. You want to reorientate Nigerians. But to reorientate a people, you must first of all offer them an identity. The Nigerian is essentially like a vagrant. We don't even know who we are half the time. You find a person who does not even have a language again. There are many people in the generation that is coming, those kids that are in their late teenage years, early 20s, they don't even speak our tongues. And we are busy dividing ourselves along ethnic lines. So these are challenges that we need to quickly and urgently deal with, but it's easy to point at government as though government is the problem. But more than anything else, I think we should actually be looking to ourselves for the solution to these problems. So yes, there are things we can do in our private spaces. And yes, you can tally these things, illegal mining, banditry, they are all pointers to the failing of the state, deliberate failing of the state and collusion and complicity by the state. I'm not sure if I've missed out anything. The persistent bad network has not been particularly helpful, but that is as far as I believe I can take that. I'm sorry, Emmanuel, if I can't reel off 7 things. I just don't believe there are too many things that are required. Just deal with the rule of law, and restructure Nigeria. The Nigerians are good enough to solve their own problems. They don't need too much government.
Thank you. I think you addressed all three questions, so we'll take the next set. Maybe I should take 4 together, and if they keep it short. Mr.
You need to let me go.
We need to let you go. So can you take this last set?
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. or Miss Ade Alabi, please go ahead. Keep it short.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pastor Itua. Thank you for all you are doing. Barrister Dele, thank you for your submission today. And I agree with you absolutely that we need coalition with the people and not with the elites. So my question is this. What is your plan on having a leadership recruitment process in this country? Because it's one of the things that the people need for them to come on board and for their wills to come to pass. So what is your plan towards that?
Thank you very much for keeping that short. I will take the next person, I believe, is Miss or Mr. Taiwo Ayedu. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you so much, organizers. Thank you, Mr. Farotimi, for making yourself available to us. 2 quick questions. You said something about democracy being probably the tool of the West. If you don't believe democracy will work for Nigerians, what do you think will? That's my first question. My second question is, you did say that you would go back to regionalism. How would you address the fears of some Nigerians who believe that regionalism means that they'll be sent packing back to their region, despite the fact that they've made investments outside of their region? How will you address their fears so that they can support regionalism? Thank you so much. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. And may I have Olayinka, please go ahead with your question. We've asked you to unmute.
Thank you so much, organizers. Thank you, Pastor Itua, and thank you, Dr. Barrister Dele. I want to quickly mention that Nigeria, we are very, very strong people, talented people, and I'm sure it's not new to all of us. But I think sometimes we try to do what we call tribal smart. Every tribe, every people feels that they are smarter than the other. Now, I agree with the issue of education because you can hardly ask just a Nigerian what is in the constitution about a particular matter. They may not know. So I believe that we need to educate the people, know what is going on and what is applicable. But my main question is that the new people that will replace these people, how do we educate them? Because they grew up in this mess. All they know is about this mess. Light going, no network, no this. Are they not, acclimatized or getting used to this, that this is the norm? That's a challenge because they need to see something new to bring about something new. And my
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. If I could have Bayo, please go ahead with your question. I think that's the last set Mr. Farotimi can take for this session. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Right.
Thank you.
If I can just add Bayo's own to it, sir, if that's okay.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Dele. Thank you so much. My question is to Mr. Dele, if you can address a platform or a congress of religious leaders in Nigeria, pastors with big ministries and all that. What will you be telling them about Nigeria? How to make Nigeria grow and their messaging to the congregants. What will you be telling them? How can they help Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. See, I am of the opinion that the biggest problem and challenge we have in Nigeria is entirely with the systems. Our systems are not designed to solve our problems. It is designed to extract value for others. And that is to respond to the person who asked the question, the plan for leadership recruitment. I believe that the first thing we need to do is to get the people to become conscious of where they are and what is required to get to where they need to be going. In order to do that, you have to first of all show them the truth of our circumstances. It is only then that those who will lead us into a future can be properly identified, because they would by then have realized the enormity of the task that is in front of us. So if you are going to be recruiting leaders, you must be dealing with persons whose minds have been decolonized, whose minds have been opened up to be receptive to new ideas and to understand that there is nothing to gain in the narrow perception that seeks to see the self as the sole beneficiary of every assertion. So it is only when this has been done, when they understand that there is poverty in private wealth, and all of us are best served when things work for everybody's advantage and to everybody's benefit. That is as far as leadership recruitment is concerned. Then you have to give good example. By the example of the choices you make in your own private space, then you can inspire people to do better and to be better. Now, I don't believe that Western democracy will help Africans. And in the case of Nigeria, I actually believe we've been failed by the very idea of Western democracy, because it's been built on a lie. You cannot have Western democracy in a space that is ungoverned by law. And our situation is so far gone that we actually need a reset. You first of all have to have a situation where an overarching power that is not anchored to any existing law, but that is subject to the moral consciousness of the people, lays down the law. That is the point where you do what I may call, like, you draw a line. Okay, so you've stolen X, you've stolen all these, no more. Now we deal with what you have stolen. We are now dealing with recovery. So the person who is coming behind knows that the persons who came before, who stole, are accounting for their stealing. So he knows that there are consequences. The knowledge of consequences is what deters people from impunity. As long as human beings that they can forget this idea of Western style democracy, insist that the people themselves, and our people know what is best for them. We know the way we treat thieves. We know how we deal with the Commonwealth. But this idea that we are going to vote new sets of people every 4 years who will do things halfway, abandon, stealing from the last government to justify removing that government, a new one will come, nothing gets done to those who stole yesterday, and we just keep going as if everything is fine. That has to stop. So this idea of Western democracy, we need to revisit it, tweak it. Frankly, I'm all for dictatorship. All for it. But let us be clear, what constitutes dictatorship? Is China a dictatorship? Is loving the kind of dictatorship they have there? So these are the kind of things that I'm looking at when I look at what we are calling democracy in Nigeria today, and all I see around me is putrefaction. I'm sorry, how do you... I'm sorry, do you know, even I am having problems to read my own writing.
So there was another question about what would you tell the religious leaders today?
Oh yeah, that's the one. There is one before it, but since I can't see it, I'll deal with the last one and then come back to the second to the last. Oh, okay. How do we ensure that the coming generation is not contaminated by the madness of the current one. I dealt with it. It's actually about consequences. Yorubas have a proverb. They say, "Ìlú tí kò sófin, ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ò sí ńbẹ̀." Roughly translated, that will say to you that where there are no laws, there are no infractions. But the Yoruba mindset and consciousness is incapable of imagining a place where there are no laws. What the Yoruba proverb is talking about is where there are no consequences for bad behavior. So you can do as you care when there are no consequences for bad behavior. Nigeria has built a society where there are no consequences for bad behavior. And that is why everybody has become acculturated to madness. And that is why our country has gone to the dogs. So if you really want to ensure that the coming generation is not contaminated by that madness, you have to ensure that they see you draw the line and then punish bad behavior and reward good behavior. It is the absence of consequences that has led to the madness that has happened to us. Now, what would I tell the faith leaders? I will say to them that they should take the charge of Christ to ensure that they do the right thing. They speak truth to power. Stop being complicit in the evil that has overtaken the land. They need to stop being the explainers of evil. It was in this land that a pastor opened his mouth and said that before David, there will be Saul. We see what Saul is into, and the church is silent. You have persons speaking in ones and twos. There are exceptions to every rule, but the reality is that the church has not been a beacon of hope in the midst of our darkness. It has shown very little by way of light. So if I'm going to be speaking to faith leaders in Nigeria, the first thing I'll tell them is that they should walk away from allowing themselves to exemplify the very best of the intention of religion, which is to fetter the imagination of men. Today in Nigeria, the true meaning of religion has come to fruition. Religion comes from the root word, religare, to bind, which means to tie. What does it tie? The imagination. The Nigerian has become functionally stupid on account of religion, where he should be demanding good governance. He is praying to God. They've told him, pray, fast and pray. So he's fasting and praying for what good governance should deliver to him. They're traveling to Lagos Ibadan Expressway. They've been building it for almost 20 years. It was during Obasanjo's second term that the first concession was issued. Ibadan Expressway. The levels of it, there are major faith fasting. They acted, but the same men would be enjoining people to fast. What happened to walk and pray? Did angels build redeem camp? No. Men concerted their effort, constrained resources, came together, built something feasible that can see. In Nigeria today, those who should be enjoining men, exhorting them to action, are busy telling them to fast and pray. And we are fasting and we have fasted and prayed our way to irrelevance all over the place. So if I ever get the opportunity to sit them down in one place, I'll tell them to stop faffing around and start telling the people the truth of their circumstances so that perhaps we might be able to move out of where we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. I know you have to go, but I don't know if our president has any last words for you before we take any announcements. So he has a chance to speak to you. Mr. President, do you have any last
I'm trying to unmute.
Pastor.
Yeah.
Okay.
He went on muting me.
You're
Okay, Dele,
muted now.
thank you so much. And as always, we've enjoyed thoroughly
pleasure, sir.
Having time with you and all that. And of course, we'll call you back again. A lot of people have asked questions, very good questions, made comments. We wish you very well. We wish Nigeria very well. Keep us abreast of your journey through the re-registration and restarting of AG Action Group. And also, we have some trainings that we want to do for young people and exposure. Jumoke will probably touch base with you to discuss it further, and then we'll take it from there. But Nigeria, we know will turn out right, with all of us putting our hands on the deck and trying to do our best. So thank you very much. God bless you. I want to thank everyone for being on the program today and wish you a very great weekend ahead. Thank you so much. God bless you. Jumoke Sonny, thank you very much. God bless you all. Thank you as always.
Thank you.
Okay, John.
Yes, I put some links in the chat for the training program, expression of interest for those that are interested in serving in that capacity. Please go ahead and fill that form, and we definitely will be in touch with you. I also put a link in the chat room for if you're interested in joining us as an organization, interested in the initiatives we are working on, also complete that form, and then we'll get in touch with you as well. So thank you. We had unmuted everyone, so thank you. Fire, you can stop the YouTube now, please. Apologies.